Hey there, ready to dive deep. Today, we're going beyond the headlines and the billion-dollar bank accounts to uncover the unexpected passions of Andy Beal.
He might seem like your typical Wall Street titan at first glance.
Trust me.
There's a lot more to this story than meets the eye. What's fascinating about Andy Beal is how his career, zigzags across industries. He's a banker, yes, but also a mathematician with a standing $1 million prize for anyone who can crack his conjecture.
Oh, and did I mention the high-stakes poker games with the pros?
Right.
Okay, we've got to unpack this. So you're prepping for that big meeting on Beal, right? So we know he's a self-made billionaire, but where did it all begin?
His entrepreneurial spirit was already taking shape back in his college days.
Okay.
Picture this, a math whiz at Michigan State University who starts buying and flipping houses on the side.
Hold on, back up. He's buying houses while studying math. That's not your average side hustle.
Right. He snagged his first house for a mere $6,500, fixed it up, and rented it out. It's a classic example of spotting an opportunity where others see none.
Yeah.
And this was just the start. Beal continued buying, renovating, and selling properties, building his wealth one house at a time.
You know, it's fascinating how this early experience kind of foreshadows his approach to finance later on. It's like he developed a knack for spotting undervalued assets, whether it's a fixer-upper house or like complex financial instruments.
Absolutely. That hands-on approach, understanding the nuts and bolts of real estate, gave him invaluable experience for his future ventures. Speaking of which, let's move on to Beal Bank.
Okay.
This wasn't just some small-town operation. This is where his financial acumen really took off.
And it's not just about making money, it's how he did it.
Right.
Right. Beal Bank has this reputation, especially during those like roller coaster economic times, for swimming against the current.
Exactly. Think of it this way. When the markets get shaky and everyone else is hitting the panic button, Beal Bank does the opposite. They buy up those distressed assets, things like loans or bonds that have dropped in value because, well, everyone's freaking out.
It's like going bargain hunting in a hurricane.
A perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. It takes guts, but it also takes a deep understanding of market cycles and the confidence to hold on to those assets until their value rebounds.
Right.
And that's precisely how Beal Bank not only weathered the storms, but thrived during periods like the 2008 financial crisis.
They were basically buying low when everyone else was selling low, and then reaping the rewards when the market calmed down. In 2008, amidst all that chaos, they recorded an 8.1% return on assets.
An incredible feat considering most banks were struggling to stay afloat. This contrarian approach, going against the grain, became a hallmark of Beal's investment strategy, demonstrating his unique blend of risk tolerance and long-term vision.
So we've got the math whiz turned real estate mogul turned banking tycoon. But get this, Beal's ambitions went beyond balance sheets and interest rates. He set his sights on something even bigger space.
Ah, yes, Beal Aerospace. This is where his story takes a truly audacious turn.
Yeah.
This wasn't just some billionaire's vanity project. He was serious about shaking up the space industry.
Seriously, did you know this guy almost went to space? Like actually launched himself into orbit.
Wow.
Okay, maybe not him personally, but he founded a company to build rockets for launching satellites.
It was a massive undertaking. Based in Frisco, Texas, Beal Aerospace was developing a colossal 3-stage rocket, towering over 200 feet tall, designed to carry those heavy communication satellites into orbit. They even had this innovative engine design using a combination of hydrogen peroxide and kerosene, meant to simplify the whole ignition process.
That's like something straight out of a movie, isn't it? The billionaire banker who decides to build rockets in his spare time. But then, boom, in 2000, Beal pulls the plug on the whole operation.
It's easy to see this as a failure, but knowing Beal's pragmatic approach to business, it was probably a calculated decision. Competing with government-funded giants like NASA is no easy feat, even for a billionaire.
Right.
Beal himself pointed to the heavily subsidized programs at NASA as a major hurdle, making it nearly impossible for private companies to compete on a level playing field.
So it was less about reaching for the stars and more about the financial realities of the space race.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, what does someone like Beal, with his ambition and drive, set their sights on after a venture like that?
Well, remember that math whiz we talked about earlier, the one buying up houses in college? That passion for numbers never faded.
Yeah.
In fact, it led him to offer a $1 million prize for anyone who can solve a particularly perplexing mathematical puzzle, the Beal conjecture.
$1 million for a math problem.
Oh.
Now, that's a challenge I can get behind, though I doubt I'd get very far.
Oh.
Okay, for those of us who aren't exactly number theory enthusiasts, can you break down the Beal conjecture in a way that won't make our heads spin?
I'll spare you the technical jargon. Imagine this. You've got this equation, a to the power of x plus b to the power of y equals c to the power of z.
Yeah.
Now, if a, b, c, x, y, and z are all positive whole numbers, and x, y, and z are all bigger than 2, then Beal's conjecture says that a, b, and c must all share a common prime factor.
Okay, I think I'm following so far. So it's like finding a hidden pattern within these equations, a rule that always holds true.
Precisely. And if proven, this conjecture would have huge implications for the world of mathematics, potentially opening up new avenues of understanding in number theory. It's like finding a missing piece of a giant mathematical jigsaw puzzle.
And Beal's offering a cool million to whoever can find that missing piece. That's a pretty powerful incentive, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's a testament to his love for mathematics and his belief in the power of human ingenuity to unlock these mysteries. The prize money is being held by the American Mathematical Society, just waiting for someone to crack the code.
So if there are any math whizzes out there listening, you know what to do. But let's be honest, not all of us are spending our free time pondering mathematical theorems.
Right.
Some of us, well, we prefer a different kind of high-stakes game.
And for Andy Beal, that game involves a deck of cards and a table full of poker sharks. But we're not talking about your casual Friday night poker game here.
Oh no, we're talking about those legendary high-stakes games with the world's best players. Names like Phil Ivey, Doyle Brunson, legends of the game. We're talking millions of dollars changing hands on a single hand.
These weren't just games of chance. They were battles of wits, strategy, and nerves of steel. And Beal, with his analytical mind, seemed to thrive in that environment.
He certainly had the bankroll to handle those swings, but it takes more than money to sit at those tables. You have to have the mental fortitude to go head-to-head with the best in the world. And Beal didn't just play, he won big.
One hand in particular became the stuff of poker legend. Picture this. The Bellagio, Las Vegas, 2004. Beal is in a game with a group of professional poker players known as the Corporation. The stakes are astronomical.
Wow.
And then it happens. Beal wins a single pot worth an astounding $11.7 million.
$11.7 million
Yeah.
in one hand. That's more than some people make in a lifetime.
It was a record-breaking win, one of the largest single hands ever won in a cash poker game. The atmosphere was electric, the tension palpable, but through it all, Beal kept his composure, outmaneuvering some of the most seasoned veterans of the game.
Talk about keeping a cool head under pressure. But as we know, those high-stakes games can be a real roller coaster. What goes up must come down, right? And Beal had his share of losses, too.
That's the nature of the game, even for the most skilled players. He reportedly lost a staggering $16.6 million to Phil Ivey in another series of high-stakes matches a couple of years later.
Ouch. Even for a billionaire, that's got to sting a little. It just goes to show that even with all the analysis and strategy, luck still plays a role.
Absolutely. But these wins and losses weren't just about the money for Beal. It was about testing his intellect, his decision-making abilities in a high-pressure environment.
So we got this picture of Andy Beal, the shrewd investor, the space enthusiast, the card shark who can go toe-to-toe with the best of them. But there's another side to him that we haven't really explored yet, his philanthropic work.
That's right. Behind those high-stakes poker games and billion-dollar deals, Beal has, kind of quietly, become a significant supporter of education, particularly in the fields of science and math.
It's interesting, isn't it? He's made a fortune in finance, but he seems to recognize the importance of nurturing the next generation of thinkers and innovators.
Absolutely. And he's not just writing checks from a distance. Beal is actively involved in supporting organizations like the Pura Museum of Nature and Science in Dallas, a world-class institution that, sparks a love of STEM in people of all ages.
That's something I really admire. It's one thing to make a donation, but it's another level of commitment to be actively engaged in making a difference.
He's also a major sponsor of science fairs, both in Dallas and Las Vegas, providing young scientists and engineers with a platform to, showcase their talent. These aren't your average school science fairs.
Right.
These are affiliated with the prestigious International Science and Engineering Fair, offering students the chance to compete on a national and even global stage.
Wow, talk about opening doors for those students. It's clear that education, particularly in those STEM fields, holds a special place in Beal's heart.
It's like he's investing in the future, not just financially, but intellectually. And while he tends to keep a low profile when it comes to his charitable giving, it speaks volumes about his character and his values.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from real estate to rockets to the high-stakes world of professional poker. We've even touched on his philanthropic endeavors. But there's one more aspect of Andy Beal that we need to explore, his political leanings.
Right. Beal is a self-described libertarian, a strong advocate for individual liberty, limited government, and free markets. And in recent years, he's become increasingly vocal about his political beliefs, particularly his support for Donald Trump.
He was a significant donor to both of Trump's presidential campaigns and even served as one of his top economic advisors during the 2016 campaign.
That's right. And his political views have definitely drawn attention and sparked debate, especially considering the often polarizing nature of politics in the United States.
It's a good reminder that even with all the information we gather, forming a complete picture of someone as complex as Andy Beal is an ongoing process. There are always different perspectives to consider, different facets of a person's life that shape their worldview.
Precisely. And it's those complexities, those apparent contradictions that make someone like Andy Beal so fascinating to kind of delve into. He defies easy categorization.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Andy Beal, I'm left with this thought. What can we learn from someone who seems to have done it all? Conquered the world of finance, reached for the stars, and tested his mettle against the very best. What's the takeaway for those of us who may not be aiming for billionaire status?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And perhaps there's no one-size-fits-all answer. But if there's one thing we can glean from Beal's journey, it's the importance of embracing curiosity, challenging conventional thinking, and pursuing your passions, however unconventional they may seem.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the many dimensions of Andy Beal. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the stories that shape our world.